Aloha, everyone. We're here again with Father's Circle. We are so excited to have three great men from here on Kaua'i to talk about issues of success and resiliency as men, as fathers on the island. Today we have with us Mark Jeffers, we have Scott Johnson, and we have Pastor Ed Ahea. Really excited to have these men with us, and we really want to start in a very contemporary way, in a challenging way. Many of us know of the suicides we've had on the island of late, and even the past history that Kaua'i has with suicidality, particularly with our young folks, but across all generations. And even to this day, we have suicide, and then we're in the midst of a pandemic. So I want us to be aware that we're faced with very crucial, challenging circumstances, and we're going to ask these men to respond. Scott, let's start with you. As a father, as a professional, a storyteller, if you're able to look back from this moment, what could you say now that you hope could come out of some of these challenging moments today?
I think the most important thing is for us to be able to step back. I personally had a time in my life when I was contemplating things that were not good. And I've had people say, Scott, when they hear my personal story and the things I've gone through, they go, wow, Scott, what you went through I could never do that. It's just, it's impossible to even. I said, no. I said, the problem is you're thinking my situation. My situation is my situation. Your situation is yours. And I had a gentleman one time that says, Scott, I don't know what's worse, the divorce I just had with my wife or your wife dying. And I said, oh, I know it was worse. I said, your situation. I said, I know exactly where my wife is. I know she's not going out with anybody. I said, but you have to live on a daily basis with not knowing when you're going to see your wife again, especially on an island like ours. It's like, there she is, and your whole day becomes ruined. And so our coping mechanism has to be individualistic. It doesn't matter where your breaking point is that you start saying, what am I doing? It can be a little thing, it can be a big thing. And the dynamic is you have to realize that you can get through it. Don't just give up. Reach out, get help, talk to somebody. And so wherever your threshold is, it doesn't matter about somebody else. We're talking about you. And no one is ever going to be in your shoes. But we've all been in places where we lost hope. But we don't have to lose hope. There's always hope.
Thank you. Thank you. Mark, you're an educator. You're a nonprofit administrator. What would you say about these times?
Thank you, Brian. I'm happy to sit with these guys because I have a lot of respect for you guys. And myself, I've worked with children for many years, first as a preschool teacher, which is rare for a man to do that kind of work, but I was really drawn to being around groups of children, and I felt like I could be effective and really successful at doing that. And then I started to be a performing artist and going out and performing for children, and have done that for many, many years. And what I feel is, when you talk about something that affects you so deeply that you have to reinvent yourself, you have to rise above, what is it, rise out of the ashes?
Yeah.
You have to come out of that. There's a couple of handles that I hold on to. One of those handles is the idea of just reinventing, which another way to describe that is using your imagination. And what I would want for myself, or for all young people in particular, is to trust their imagination. Because in this world, when there's so much input, so many things are coming in, or you can reach for so many things, you can imagine anything, dark or light, horrible or excellent and beautiful. So imagination you can place anywhere on that. So when you're reinventing yourself and thinking of new ideas to rise from the ashes, so to speak, to pick the best ideas from your imagination. Now, imagination is kind of a learned behavior. I think as far as we know, we're the only creature on the earth that uses our imagination. There's no evidence that any other animal uses their imagination. Okay, so we have that as a power, but we also have the weakness where we have to use it to survive. So, I mean, I think of myself coming out of this COVID epidemic or even Hurricane Iniki, and realizing that there's a lot of rethinking and reinventing that's got to happen. And so what I did was I really thought, okay, I'm just going to try to be easy, go into myself, go into the world, and in particular go into the natural world, into nature, and see if I could be informed by nature through my imagination. And it always amazes me that as soon as you start to appreciate nature or the natural world, your imagination just gets tickled and lively and you can move forward. I had so many great ideas. Of course, you share your ideas and someone says, well, that won't work or this will work and this kind of thing. So you move it forward. But I think imagination and resting and trusting that the natural world will inform you what you're supposed to be doing.
Excellent, excellent. Pastor Ed, in some ways as a pastor, we're looking to you for answers. Community looks to you for answers. But there's so much more to your own life as well. What do you say about these times?
They're challenging times. They're unusual times. And what I say to people who come to me for advice is that there is hope in our lives, and that hope is our ability to find the element of resilience, that spirit that we can work together for a common cause. Especially with this pandemic, it's very unusual, a very unusual situation for the entire community because it infringes upon our sense of self, of our sense of who we are as individuals, what we do as just people in a private way. Suddenly it needs to be turned over. It needs to be regulated. And just personally, as someone who has always responded to regulation, I find it to be daunting in that the human spirit is conditional. Whereas I've always thought that the human spirit was unconditional, that it soars, that even if you have a soul, your soul can raise yourself up to become a spirit that was able to do good things. We need to be able to focus on the capabilities of us as a being, as human beings, to do good things. Look for the good in everyone. Look to their hearts. Because it may be difficult initially, but if you can give people hope, if you can give them, I used to say in another life, we all get a chance. We all have a chance. If you work hard, if you're diligent, if you're truthful with your circumstances, we all have a chance to do good. And doing good is really predicated on being of service, helping people. I always go back to the Psalm 82. Feed the hungry, clothe the naked, protect the weak. Because there's somebody somewhere in this life that needs your help, that needs whoever you are, to help them get on their feet, to help them have a better life. So I continue to just pursue that spirit.
Thank you, thank you. Mark, you mentioned imagination. Let's do a little exercise for a moment. Let's say I just popped in from another planet, and I didn't know what you guys were going through. Help me understand what is going on today, whether it's a word or if it's some other kind of way you could help describe what is going on, and I don't know. Mark, let's start with you.
Yeah, really. Well, we can think of concentric circles. Our self, our personal self is our first circle, right? And then the circles of our partner, our family, our community, our church, our town, our island, our country, our world. Those are all concentric circles. And, the word community is a great word because the prefix there, cum, C-O-M-M, means with. With. So with unity. Community, with unity. And we experienced that. On this island, in Hurricane Iniki, we were fortunate, actually. Fortunate to get Hurricane Iniki, right? We were fortunate because we got the crap beat out of us in Hurricane Iniki. But we all had to look at each other and say, okay, what are we going to do now? So we found ourselves, of course, I spent the hurricane up in the mountains in Kaua'i. So we had to come out of our houses. We had to start clearing our driveways. We had to figure out where's our water coming from. That's the first and foremost thing. Is there any food left to eat? How do we stay warm? Because it's, and then we couldn't even get down the mountain for 3 or 4 months because all the trees had fallen across the roads. So we were helping each other and talking and spending our evenings together and feeding each other and making sure that we always knew what was happening with the other person and are you doing okay? Or did you get that tree out of your, And so that's kind of sustainability, I guess you'd call it, that came about because of that incident of the hurricane. Now, with the COVID, it's a similar thing. We probably here on Kauai probably have more success as mask-wearing people, right? And we don't question it too much. I don't know about you guys, but I never really, apart from forgetting my mask and not bringing it with me, I never questioned why I was wearing a mask to keep other people safe or keep me safe. But then, then I read about stuff on the mainland where people are going, we don't have to wear a mask if we don't want to, kind of thing. I'm going, whoa, what kind of dumb is that? So, imagination is I always tell children, I says, imagination, I think that's the sign, it's a muscle. And you have to work it and pump it, just like you pump your regular physical muscles. You have to work your imagination in order to become a good thinker and have what I call a good crap detector. Because a crap detector is all this stuff that's out there now, all the world of media and internet and all this. You've got to be able to discern. Okay, this is good stuff. This is not so good. This is good. This is not so good. And then if you're unsure, you have to ask somebody, hey, what do you think? Is this a good thing or a not good thing? And so discernment is the skill of today. And if we don't have discernment, then what we got is just a mind full of stuff, unorganized stuff.
Maybe contention,
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Scott, how about yourself? I'm an alien. What can you tell me about these times?
Being a storyteller and loving dealing with kids and stuff, I probably would grab some balls. I like your balls. I'm going to use your concentric circles.
Yeah.
And I'd show them how I can juggle one ball. And then I'd add another one, and I'd try and build two. And then I have a whole bowl of balls. And I said, this is the problem we have right now. And I'd throw them up in the air.
Yeah, right.
Because we can handle one thing really easy, and sometimes we can handle two. But when we start having a bunch of them, we need help, like you said. We need to reach out to somebody. Going back to Hurricane, I remember Hurricane Eva. And I was at my friend's house, and she lived in the low-income housing. And everybody went to her place because she had gas stove and gas water heater. And so we had Thanksgiving there. And I remember being in the backyard, and we're talking story and having a great time. And we saw the street lights popping on. It was like the end of an era. And there was a sadness and a heaviness because of the closeness. And with my family, my in-laws, the ohana, that closeness has been disrupted. You can't hug people, and you can't, and so we have to isolate ourselves, so we're pulling back. So at a time when our normal perspective would be to reach out, we're having like, oh yeah, hey, how's it? And so the dynamic of who we are as a people here, helping each other, like you said, doing what we can for each other, we're kind of curtailed a little bit. And I literally got a phone call from my friend yesterday going, Scotty, your daughter worked Costco still, yeah? I said, yeah. He goes, wow, I came in from Honolulu twice already. I cannot get toilet paper. And I went, really? And he said, it's not critical, but when does the boat come in and stuff? And so that interchange that we have to help each other, that's what's happening with that bowl of balls. And so that's a visual aid that could help you see that we're dealing with a whole bunch of stuff that we don't have a real good handle on. But with some help, we can pick them all up and put them back in the bowl and try and handle it. And so that's the only way I could think of to try and explain, from my perspective, all the junk we're dealing with and how we're just not capable of handling it the way we used to.
Very interesting.
I think that reminds me of the function of clowns. The work of the clown is to turn everything upside down. So you turn it upside down and you can show people what's right from wrong, or what works and what doesn't work. But maybe you don't walk around with that kind of clarity, so you need a clown around to show you, no, hey, look, when I turn it upside down, it doesn't work.
That's why they always had a clown. The king always had the court jester.
Yeah, where's my clown?
Where's my jester here? Tell me something funny.
Yeah, really.
Change perspective.
Help us understand. What do you see, Pastor?
You know, my metaphor is the ocean. I come from an ocean family. I was raised in a place on Oahu called Kaua'i. It's where the Hawaiian village is. And Niamalu Swim Club was the swim club of my granduncle. His name was Paua Kahanamoko. Everybody knows him as Du Kahanamoko. So I was raised in the ocean, and I was taught to always honi the ocean. You know, love the ocean. Don't be afraid of it, Edward. Go into the ocean, because the ocean can feed you. The ocean can give you a way to get to a place, and it can give you recreation. It can give you opportunities. It's a place that's part of your heritage. So for me, what it meant was always keeping an eye on what's going on in front of you. Because in the ocean, you have to see what's going on in front of you. So I learned at an early age, because when you're looking for a wave in a set coming in, you want to be able to see, is it a 2-footer or a 4-footer? And always the ocean just provided me a sense of calmness and a sense of just being able to know what's going on. It was. I know it sounds silly that you're in the ocean, because some people to this day, they won't go in the ocean. Right. They will walk up to it and put their toes in it. But you know, me, my family, we're from the ocean, and there is a science that says we are from the ocean. So I metaphor to the ocean for its abundance and its creativity, and really the ocean brings us a lot of imagination too.
Mark mentioned the word discernment. How do you understand that?
Discernment is really, to me, black and white. It's just you do good or you do bad. And in order to do good, you have to understand what's the goodness in your world. What's the goodness in your social structure? What's the goodness in your work? What do you do? Do good stuff. Very simple. At this point in time in my life, I always tell people, do good things. Don't do junk things. Don't do pilikia things. Do good things. Do things that help your neighbor. I'm what they call in my the Gospel of Jesus Christ an 82 guy. Okay, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, protect the weak. That's what I'm called to do, and that's what we all should be doing: is to give ourselves to the larger community. So I look towards that. What it does, it gives me resilience. It gives me a purpose to do what I'm doing in terms of the ministry and other things. It also reopens up a craft that I from my entire life, I've pursued, and that's the craft of acting and theater. I'm a playwright, I'm a writer, I'm a comedian, but it also gives me the opportunity to bring those two things together.
So, Scott, we can't do it all. Let's go back to your metaphor of juggling the balls. How would what we're hearing from Mark on discernment, Pastor Ed on discernment, how would that apply to your metaphor around the balls?
Actually, real basic. I juggle one ball because that's what I can do. And if I got that under control, okay, well, I can try a second one, you know. And like I said, when I had the whole thing and they all fell down, I asked for help. Help me put the balls back in. Okay, I cannot handle the whole ball. Maybe if we want to use all the balls for juggling, maybe I know you can juggle 3, so I'll take 2 and you juggle 2, and working together. And that's the dynamic with, for me, in dealing with hard times. I had a friend of mine, and I was sharing with him. I said, you know the difference between what you're going through right now and what you were going through is you're talking to me. And what happened was he was having a hard time dealing with the kids and all that kind of stuff, and his maid and all that. And he says, she just doesn't understand. And I said, yeah, I know, and she probably never will. And he goes, and I don't know if I should seek counseling or not. And because I talked to the counselor, and he says, I don't really need it. But if you want, he said, you can make another appointment. And I said, you know what the problem is, Brian? You don't have anybody to talk to. You don't have your friends to vent with, to let it out. You're trying to keep all this stuff in, and it's driving you crazy. And you know what the problem is, but if you don't talk about it and don't share and find out that, hey, other people have the same problem I am. So what do? I go to the beach. When Brother Ed said that, I had a semester in college. No classes Tuesdays and Thursdays. So every Tuesday, Thursday, I check the surf report. Either Makaha or either I go Sandy's, body surfing, Sandy's, or I go Mokua. Just depending upon which side had the break. And for a whole semester, it was a great semester because I knew Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going beach. And so knowing that there's going to be a break, knowing that there's someone can help you, knowing that there's someone you can talk with, just to vent, let it out. Don't try and keep it in. And so that's the dynamic.
For me, just to add to that, I take it into the step I mentioned, the natural world, into nature. And I think if people are, like, if you're down by the ocean, you're very aware, because you have to be, number one, just because you have to be cautious. But also, there's a lot of things to be aware of in the natural world. And I believe personally that my guardian spirits are there. They're in the natural world. And so I look for tiny moments and signs as just guiding me this way or that way. If you can relax in nature and not be afraid of it or got to get home or something like that, if you can just be in the natural world, it is very informative. You will find the healing that you're looking for in the natural world. There's many ways to heal yourself. And there's many ways to heal your community. Imagine if a community was a coal mining community in West Virginia, okay? And they ran out of coal. And so all the old guys dying of black lung and the young guys coming up, and they're going, well, what are we supposed to do now? Well, we can make babies and live off welfare. And a lot of people do that, But we could also transform ourselves, and one way they could do that is just go back into that part of the world. And what is the natural expression of the hills of West Virginia? My family's from there, and they're beautiful. They're beautiful places. They're low mountains and streams, and it's so beautiful. And if they just would be informed by that, then I'm sure that they can reinvent the coal mining areas of West Virginia and have a great place and a great life.
I just read an article yesterday, as a matter of fact, that was done in England and several other countries, and the bottom line was they said whenever people go out into nature, it calms them, it distracts them in ways that their minds can relax. They did a study. And so nature actually allows you to relax, even when you're, like he said, searching out the little nuances and innuendos.
Big Mama Nature, yeah.
I have a little bit different belief, but my belief is God is a God of order and not confusion. And he gave us all this nature to enjoy. Obviously, it should benefit us, not only seeing, but internally.
We're really lucky to be living here in Hawaii and on Kaua'i, to be surrounded by the ocean and the land. It's it drives one's imagination into a lot of creative spots.
Totally.
Wrapping up now, gentlemen, I just want to say thank you for this discussion. And as we wrap up, just give me one word for today. Resilience is, if you can complete that with just one word. I'll start with you. Just one word, Pastor Ed.
Resilience is poetry.
Poetry. Okay. Scott?
Continuing.
Continuing. Mark?
inspiration.
Inspiration. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you. This has been another episode of Father's Circle. Thank you for joining us.
Aloha, this is Ed Ahea, and I'm sitting with Brian Alston of the Kaua'i Fatherhood Council, and he's going to tell us about the 2020 Kaua'i Men's Conference. Hi, Brian.
Hi. Thank you, Pastor Ed. I'm so excited to talk about the conference. This is our 5th annual Kaua'i Men's Conference, and I just want to mention there are some strategic men that have played a role in the development of this, and one is our mayor, former mayor, Bernard Carvalho.
As the Olelo No'ea or Hawaiian proverbs say, "Ohe hana nui ki alu'ia," no task is too big when done together by all. And as a father and a husband and mayor, every day I face challenges and difficult decision-making, stressful situations. But you know what? Staying connected spiritually is what helps me get through every single day. And it's important.
So even when we looked at restarting this almost 5 years ago, he was encouraging that we want to have a gathering where men can be of support to one another. And that's the primary role of the conference. This year, our topic is health and wellness. And we picked this topic pre-COVID. So we weren't even thinking about the times that we are currently in. And we're looking at health and wellness across the lifespan. We'll be inviting men of about 5 different generations. So anywhere from age 14 all the way up into ages. And we're looking at physical health, mental and emotional health, and also spiritual health.
Once again, that's the Kaua'i Fatherhood Council. They're presenting the Kaua'i Men's Conference. And tell us, what are the dates and where is it?
We're looking at Saturday, November 21, once again at the great spot at Smith's Tropical Paradise in Wailua.
Brian, tell us what the whole conference, the Kaua'i Men's Conference, is about. What happens during the course of the day?
It's a great question, and usually I get someone's wife that may ask me the same question. They want to know what their husband's doing, what is this about? And really, we gather in the morning time, and we have a chance really to mingle and to talk a little bit before we kick the conference off. Typically, we have our mayor comes out and gives us the great welcome that we all deserve. And then we have a chance to have a keynote speaker, someone that will focus on the topic for us, a way in which it opens that topic of health and wellness so that we can explore it throughout the day. And then we break up. We have smaller group sessions, somewhere between 8 to 14 guys sitting in circle. And we begin to talk about these topics like physical health, mental and emotional, spiritual health, and we break it down in a very personal kind of way. And it's in those circles where men get a chance to hear from one another and to share of their heart. We have a great hot lunch together, and we have a great time in the afternoon to wrap it up with a 3rd session. And at the end, we usually have a couple of guys who are looking at the whole day. They begin to summarize it for us, so we walk away with a clarity of what we did and what we can use when we come back out into the community.
Thanks, Brian. Once again, that's the Kaua'i Fatherhood Council's presentation of the Kaua'i Men's Conference coming up in November. We hope to see all of you guys there.
Any man that chooses to come here can really feel a sense of belonging.
So I got the opportunity to look at things from a wider vantage point and understand where other people are coming from.
Today to talk and share about the challenges of being a man, how we can support each other, the tools necessary for us to be successful men, not only for ourselves but for our families and the community.
It's nice to see different variety of men sharing their feelings and what it is to be expected from us as men and leaders, and not only in our family but also in society, the community.
And today was a day about just showing up, speaking your truth, really easy day, and you see that every man has a heart, has a smile, has the same desires as you.
For me, I really encourage more young people like me to come visit. It was really inspirational and a blessing to come here.
You know, just building relationships and having the camaraderie as men, and then finding out or dialoguing about things that for most of us as men we don't think about, I think is important for men to come.